CLNSRadio.com, the home of Internet Sports Talk Radio.
You're listening to the Celtics Late Night Show, live at www.CelticsLateNightShow.com.
Hey, Rex, you suck. Hey, Dave Stern, you suck too. Lakers, you suck first of all. Come on, Celtics.
You gotta love it like that. Little kids just, smarter than most of the fans out there.
Come on, Celtics.
Now, the hosts of tonight's show, Nick Gelso and BPaul.
Come on, Celtics.
Well, good evening, Hoops fans. Good evening, Celtics fans. This is the Celtics Late Night Show. We are live again, BPaul, live on CLNSRadio.com. Brandon, welcoming you back to the mic. I think the last time we did a show, we kind of introed the exact same way. How's your summer been, dude?
It's been good. We haven't done a show since July 25th, I believe it was. I checked earlier today, so over 2 months since the last show. And this is a somewhat historic show here. I'm not sure if you checked, but this is episode 90, 10 more episodes until we hit the old century mark, 100.
Yeah, well, I never know what episode we're on. You seem to always keep good track of that, Brandon. Hey, do you think that we'll hit episode 100 in the next couple weeks? I mean, what's our plan here? Are we going to continue to broadcast live through the work stoppage? What's going to happen here? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts is we're going to go as if there's going to be an NBA season. I'm ready to get back on the mic. If we have to have a short delay and maybe do an every other week show or even just a 30-minute broadcast, we want to be consistent, and we enjoy doing this. So I'm looking forward to some more shows here in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think we both needed a break. And then, of course, not very much exciting news to talk about. As a matter of fact, the NBA has become pretty drab unless you like legal disputes, contract negotiations, etc. I don't know about you, Brandon, but it's time for me to move on, mentally at least, as if the season training camp has begun. We would have probably already had media day, correct?
I believe that's usually towards the end of training camp. I'm not 100% sure.
At least be in training camp.
Yes, it would be. I believe this would be the time training camp would be starting up, so we're already going to miss that. And pretty soon, they did cancel most of the preseason games, and if something doesn't get done shortly, I think we're going to hear an announcement that the rest of the preseason games will be canceled until an agreement is made.
Well, here we are, episode 90 of the Celtics Late Night Show, right here live on CLNSRadio.com. If you're listening to us on Blog Talk Radio, get out of there. Go over to www.CLNSRadio.com. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see a red button that says Listen Live. Click that. You can listen to us from there and also chat with us in the chat room. Brandon, we have not been live, like you said, in 2 months. However, CLNS Radio has gone nonstop throughout the entire summer. We've expanded our coverage to really reach all major sports, and we've added shows to the network.
Yes, that is the biggest news that's been going on here. To try to continue to have some interaction on CLNS Radio, we have added a bunch of other sports from the NFL. Jared Weiss is doing a terrific job doing the beat writing for the New England Patriots. And we also have Bring in the House, which airs Sundays at 10 a.m. to preview Sunday football. So we have the NFL covered on that aspect. Lee Herman is going to be taking over. He's done some great intro pieces for NHL coverage, trying to kind of teach the listeners that may not be familiar with the rules of hockey, give them a little bit of information regarding the NHL and the Boston Bruins. So we have that going.
And let me interrupt you there for 1 minute. Those of you that remember Lee Herman always covered the Boston Celtics, started out as a beat writer and covered every single game, I think, in 08-09. And now we really want to expand into the Bruins coverage. So Lee is going to be doing Bruins coverage. Exciting stuff. Don't forget Scotty has expanded now to have 2 shows on the network. The Scotsman being ambitious.
Yes, and he is the host of Bringing the House, Victory Lane Radio. Those guys aired before us tonight at 7 p.m. They cover the Northeast stock car racing scene. They're pretty much the best thing you can go to regarding that to get your information regarding the local stock car racing scene. And then also the same group of guys, TJ Ingerson and Jeremy Carpenter, host Football Frenzy on Tuesday nights, and that does recap the week and preview the week ahead. So we have some great football shows, and we're really starting to have some great coverage for the NFL and football.
And quickly, it would be a disservice if we didn't mention Sean, who, though the Red Sox season ended in disappointment for Boston Red Sox fans, Sean didn't miss a beat covering the Red Sox beat, Brandon. I mean, he covered every game. Every game.
That was terrific to have Sean with us this year. He will be also doing Celtics coverage. He did some great beat work, and then his final piece of the year was also terrific as well. He pretty much just recapped the whole year, the ups and downs of the Boston Red Sox. We'll try to avoid that topic as much as possible, being from Boston. But, yeah, he did a great job despite the Red Sox not doing as great of a job to keep him writing longer than he did.
I guess plugging for the last time would be another new show on the network, which is Crunch Time with Mac Attack. That's with the host Mike Mockey. That show, Brandon, has really gained a big following on the network. He's been very ambitious with giveaways, and now he's going to be giving away T-shirt for the next, I think, 4 weeks now remaining of the contest from BustedTees.com. Those that have not visited BustedTees.com should definitely do that. Great site, great product, and if you listen to Crunch Time with Mac Attack on Tuesday evenings, you will also get a discount code, which allows any listener to go in to Busted Tees and type in that discount code and get a good percentage off their next buy.
He always gets great guests to talk about the current events that are going on, and then when something's not going on, he'll bring on a guy like Scott Pollard. He had former Celtic Scott Pollard on a few weeks back, which was a very entertaining interview. You can check that out on the Crunch Time with Mac Attack show page on demand, so we definitely encourage you to head over and do that as well.
Good stuff, Brandon. I guess that'll end the plugs here. Here we are. Summer of Silence, I've been calling it, BPaul. And tell me, how have you occupied your summer with no free agency, no big decisions from LeBron this year? What have you done without basketball?
Well, it's been tough. I've learned to instead. Last summer, I found myself always doing basketball-related stuff. Really didn't pay attention to football, the Patriots, or the Red Sox, or anything like that. And throughout the lockout, I've kind of been forced to do that to occupy the time. I mean, watching the Red Sox collapse, watching the Patriots, pretty much that's it. And you know that I'm a pretty big NASCAR fan, probably one of the only ones out there on CLNS radio. So also NASCAR.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm sure there's other fans that tune into the site. Oh, you mean among the staff?
Yeah, I mean among our staff, yes.
Yeah, it's exciting. CLNS Radio, though the lockout has really hampered the NBA coverage, we are still putting out some historical pieces, video excerpts. So definitely tune into the blog page on CLNSRadio.com. In addition, Brandon, I guess we're going to have some changes coming up. I know that we're going to have some changes coming up. Tim Donaghy, as we know, he hosts a show on Wednesday nights here at 8 p.m. on. Excuse me, did I just cough on the mic?
You did. That was your first cough. I had one in the early days.
3 years, I think. You did. Anyway, Tim Donaghy hosts with Mike Munger, the Scotsman, on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. I have an excerpt here I'm going to play real quick from their last show, and then we'll talk about what's going on with Technically Speaking, hosted by Tim Donaghy and the Scotsman.
When you have a guy in your grasp, you're allowed to finish the guy. He ran into his own man. But I'm telling you that I've seen this on the floor in NBA games to where Michael Jordan goes to the basket, looks over at the referee, and get a whistle. I've seen Tom Brady do the same thing on TV.
You're absolutely wrong.
I don't know that you've seen those things. I know you've seen your kid probably give you a funny look when you didn't put enough sugar on his Cheerios, but I don't think you've been in the situations that I've seen.
Okay, entertaining stuff, obviously. These two guys, they go at it. We know Donaghy's a former ref, BPaul, and we know Scotty is the biggest ref basher probably of all NBA fans. Well, every Wednesday night they duke it out. I'm going to start joining them on Wednesdays, kind of playing the no pun intended, but referee in kind of keeping them their arguments so they don't kill each other. Let's put it that way. Technically speaking, Tim Donaghy has been incredible with his coverage of sports, and I mean that. We know the Scotsman knows his stuff. We know you get him off the referees, and he knows basketball better than a lot of people that I know. And Brandon, we know a lot of people, right? Well, Donaghy, really, I mean, what shocked me, and I've produced this show all summer long, and what's kind of shocked me is he's gotten away from all the Stern bashing, and it's really just talking like a sports fan now. I mean, he's out there, a former referee on the basketball court in NBA games. What kind of inside scoop can you ask for?
Yeah, and like you said, I have listened to quite a few of their shows, and it's not just the NBA that they're breaking down. I mean, that clip that you heard, that was actually discussing the NFL and Mike Vick and how the refs treat Mike Vick based upon what he did off the court with the dogfighting ring and all that. So they do branch out, and they get it's a very controversial debates that they have. So it's entertaining to listen to them to go back and forth. Usually it's in a calm manner, but like you said, we're going to have Nick Gelso jump in there and play referee for them now.
Yeah, it's kind of I'm excited to do it. That's Wednesday nights 8 p.m. If you haven't heard, you want to check it out. Their show page is right on CLNS Radio. There's also a review that was posted by an anonymous blogger on the site, and very objective. Give both sides of the story as far as they're good at this or not separated. Check it out. It's interesting on CLNSRadio.com. We just talked about the Scotsman and Donaghy. Scotty's going to call in after 10 p.m. We got Matt Rury checking in as well, the voice of post and pregame, if we ever have them this year. Matt Rury, he'll be checking in after 10 o'clock. But who do we have first?
Well, on tonight's show, we have a special guest, Sherrod Blakely from Comcast Sportsnet New England. Sherrod has really taken the lead as the Boston Celtics writer over at CSNNE, followed by Jessica Camerato. Terrific coverage from Sherrod even during the lockout. He did go out to the Impact Vegas League where Avery Bradley and Jermaine O'Neal, they showed off their talents out there. So we're going to ask him about that and just get his take on the lockout and where he thinks we're going to end up, if there's going to be a season and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting interview with Sherrod. As always, he's appeared on the show several times. We're expecting him to call in probably in the next 5 minutes. Let's go take a quick commercial break right now. We'll come back, start to talk some hoops. We got excerpts from an interview I did with Nick Sanacandro earlier, former writer for our site as well, earlier in the summer. Hopefully it's about a minute clip. Hopefully everybody will stay tuned for that as well. Let's take our first commercial break and come right back, BPaul.
This is CLNS Radio, the home of Internet Sports Talk Radio.
This is Avery Bradley of the Boston Celtics, and you are listening to CLNS Radio.
Here's what you've been missing if you haven't heard Mike T.
Speaking of pansies, what are your feelings? 500 yards passing?
Are you going to call Tom Brady a pansy? Bite your tongue.
Could I have one or the other? Looks or good quarterback?
Here's his resume. 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 3-time Super Bowl champion. He is married to a billionaire supermodel, and he's gorgeous. He's just a gorgeous, gorgeous man. So, yeah, Mike T. It's sports and a whole lot more with my buddy Tyler Tomlinson and me, Mike Fay, every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on CLNSRadio.com.
This is Luke Herrington, and you're listening to CLNS Radio.
CelticsBlog.com, the online community for Celtics fans. Blogging since 2004, Jeff Clark is a diehard for life. Hey, did I mention it's also family friendly? There's tons of ways to interact through blog, comment, forums, chat, and now the new fan posts and fan shots. It's all part of what's going on at the rapidly expanding SB Nation community of blogs. Hey, and guess what? Celtics Stuff Live simulcast from Celtics Blog every Sunday night. CelticsBlog.com to get all the latest updates and thoughtful commentary on everything from the Celtics and the NBA. So check it out at CelticsBlog.com.
Okay, Celtics fans, we are back. Celtics Late Night Show right here on CLNSRadio.com. We're back, and Brandon, we're talking about here how we've occupied our summers without the NBA, without free agency, without all the usual basketball stuff that goes on in the summer. It's really pretty much a boring time of the season either way, obviously. There's no hoops being played, but this summer in particular was difficult for NBA fans. Earlier in the summer, Nick Santacandro, former writer for North Station Sports, constant contributor to the shows on this network, asked me if I would do an interview with him. He's writing a book, Brandon, on Celtics history, and we sat down for about 2 hours and talked Celtics history, NBA history. Brandon, did you learn anything? Did you even listen to it?
I was listening to it at first because the first 15 seconds Nick S was talking, and then I heard you start talking, and I'm just like, I just can't do it.
Well, you missed out. I think it was a pretty good interview. We're going to play a short excerpt. It's about a minute here. This interview can be found on YouTube. It can be found on the homepage at CLNS Radio, right where the video monitor is down at the bottom of the page. And it can be found on Blog Talk Radio. So I hope everybody will check it out. Here's an excerpt. In this particular area of the interview, we're talking about Len Bias and Reggie Lewis.
Your first choice for Internet Sports Talk Radio, CLNS Radio.
I look at Bias, and from a memory standpoint, I remember my brother really talking about Len Bias and how he was going to catapult this team into another dynasty, and then he died. And it was like taking the pin and putting in the balloon and letting it deflate, Bias has been called on record publicly, could have been equals with Michael Jordan. He could have been the guy who gave Bird an extra 3 years on his career. He could have been the guy who, led the Celtics to 2 more championships before, the inevitable decline of the Big Three. And these are all could have beens because Bias never stepped foot on the parquet floor for gameplay. He never wore a Celtics uniform. These are could-haves. And I'm not discounting the impact on the Celtics that Len Bias has had. Obviously, it was huge. But when you think about Reggie Lewis, here's a guy who came out of nowhere. Like you said, he was a 22nd pick in the draft, and he sat on the bench for a long time, 88 through 89, 88, 89, even into 90. He spent a lot of time on the bench. It really took time to grow into the player that he would eventually become. But we got a glimpse into that. We got a glimpse into what Lewis can do as the next star of this team. And then, on a spring day in May, he was taken from us pretty much on the basketball court because he collapsed on the floor. I remember my brother saying, "Oh no, not again," because echoing back to Bias. But it was so eerie because the way that he collapsed, it was like his body shut off. And then I don't even know how long, maybe a month or two later, it was in the off season, after he insisted he was still okay to play. On a practice court, he passed away. And the NBA didn't allow the Celtics to remove Lewis's salary from the salary cap. And I believe that really is the one situation that put the Celtics into 20 years of basketball purgatory.
CLNSRadio.com, the home of Internet Sports Talk Radio.
There we are. Now we're live. Everybody can hear us. Okay. So that was an excerpt. Oh, boy, I'll be editing this show after. That was an excerpt of my interview with Nick Santacandro. from back in the beginning of the summer. He's writing a book. Everybody stay tuned to the network. We're going to promote the book there. It's on Celtics history. It's catered towards the youthful fans of the Celtics. That will be you, Brandon. It's geared towards the youthful fans of the Celtics. And I guess maybe catch up on some stuff in history that the younger fans don't know about. Fun stuff. And in case, Brandon, let's move on. Sherrod Blakely is on the line now. Sherrod, you're live with us here on CLNS Radio, Celtics Late Night Show. We're thrilled to have you on the air.
Glad to be here. Glad to talk basketball. Wish I had games to talk about, but we could talk basketball.
I know, man. We're just basically killing 20 minutes of the show because, there's not very much to talk about. We're just kind of getting caught up on our summers because we have not broadcasted in 2 months, Sherrod. How's your summer been?
Aside from the fact that there's no basketball season, it's been pretty good. But you know what? And Doc Rivers and I, we were talking about this a little bit earlier today. This time of year, you're so used to getting ready for the season. It's almost like your body is just, it's expecting to go out there and watch practice and see guys starting to, break sweats and get ready for the season. And then reality smacks you upside the head and say, hey, wait a minute. There is no basketball. There is no training camp. It's just, there's nada. In a word or two, it sucks.
Well, Sherrod, it is good to hear your voice and be talking some hoops with you again. And I have to ask you, you said you talked to Doc. What are his thoughts on the lockout? He's not really in the players' union. He's not on the owner's side. I mean, for a coach, this has to be somewhat tough for them. Where I wouldn't think they really have a lot of involvement in these the negotiations with the new collective bargaining agreement. No,
they don't have a lot of involvement, but for them to speak publicly, they will get smacked with the 7-figure David Stern tax for talking anything lockout related. So he's been pretty mum about that. But the one thing Doc has said is that him and his staff, they're going about their business as best they can to get ready for the season whenever the season begins. And part of that is just figuring out different strategies. But one of the challenges that Doc has, and every coach in the NBA has, it's hard to get a game plan when you don't know who the hell's on your team. I mean, Celtics have 6-7 players under contract, and by the time the season starts, that number's going to double. So basically, right now, half of your team, you have no idea who they're going to be. And I would imagine for a coach that is incredibly maddening to just basically have no control over your team as far as how it's put together. And frankly, from a game planning standpoint, it's very difficult.
Well, Sherrod, also I believe it was from you on CSNNE.com today, based off your conversations with Doc. He had a quote about Tito, Terry Francona, and how he was going to miss him and how he was like a brother because of how close these Boston coaches are. So I have to ask you a Red Sox-related question in regards to fans. I know you have a lot of interaction with fans, so I have to ask you, do you think New England's recovered yet from that historic collapse?
No, I think most people are still a little bit shell shocked by it all, and time is the best healer for that kind of stuff, and certainly fans will around here they'll try to forget about it as soon as possible. But you know what's going to happen? They have become the Buckner of choke jobs. Whenever you see a team have a huge lead and it starts to shrink, you're going to think of the 2011 Red Sox, who pulled one of the biggest choke job, actually the biggest choke job in Major League Baseball history. And it's sad because, it's sad that Terry Francona has to go out on that, though, because when you look at his body of work from beginning up until the very end, it's impressive. I mean, the fact that he's got a couple of World Series under his belt after they hadn't won one prior to that since, 1918? Something ridiculous like that. It's sad that it had to end this way, but I think the best thing for the Red Sox and for Terry Francona was for both sides to just kind of go their separate ways.
Yeah, really. I mean, honestly, what a collapse. And I think now the one thing that sports fans up in New England are looking forward to would be moving on. And we have the Patriots now. Obviously, the NBA season we know is up in the air. Sherrod, Will there be a season? Will it be condensed? What are your thoughts? What's the feeling up there among, members of the media and whatnot?
Well, right now, and I felt this way at the beginning of the lockout, and nothing has changed for me. I still think there will be a season. It'll be a shortened season. And right now, if you look at the calendar, they're going to have to start canceling some regular season games fairly soon. It takes typically about a month once they agree to a new collective bargaining agreement, to there actually being games played, because there's a lot of logistics and I's that need to be dotted and T's that need to be crossed before it can become official. So right now, the season was supposed to start November 1st, and we're at October 3rd. Obviously, they're within that 1 month window. Is it possible the season can still start on time? Yes, but it's highly unlikely because both sides are so far apart on so many different issues.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Sherrod. And we've heard the owners are willing to back off their stance on a hard cap. There's still some difference there within the revenue sharing. The players, I believe, 153. The owners are 47, something around that. But then we have today the agents. 6 of the major agents out there released a letter. I'm not sure if you caught on that yet or not. It was pretty recently. And it really was pretty strong, telling the players not to budge at all, to pretty much keep things how it is. Do you think that's going to delay this at all as far as the resolution to the NBA lockout goes?
No, I don't. I don't think so, because you're talking about 6 agents, and while they are prominent agents and have a lot of clients under their belt, I just think this union is a little bit different than the one that was trying to get a deal done back in 1998. I think this union is a little bit tighter. I think they're a little bit more focused, and I think they're more committed to getting a deal done that isn't as sweet as past deals have been for them. Because let's think about this for a second. Their last collective bargaining agreement, they got 57% of the basketball-related income. Name another industry where the employee gets a higher percentage than those that are employing them. It doesn't work that way. The fact that your average salary is north of $5 million, that's not normal, people. I think the players realize when they look at their situation and you look at other professional sports, it's clear that they got the sweetest deal of all deals. And for them to give a little bit back, certainly I think they understand they have to do that. But if I'm an agent, I don't want to see that happen, because we all know the more money the players get back to the owners, that's less money in the agent's pockets. That's the one thing in all this that, hasn't really been talked a whole lot about. It's in the agent's interest for the players to keep things status quo. But again, they make some very good They make some very good points, and they're legitimate points. But I just think at the end of the day, the players are going to have to give back a little bit of that of what they've been reaping for so many years, so that the NBA can frankly survive.
Sherrod, we're talking about the players. We're talking about the owners. Let's hone in a little bit further on the players, in particular our players. That's the Celtics. How would a shortened impact? Yeah, all 7 of them. How would a shortened season impact this team? We've heard various opinions on this. What in particular is your opinion as far as a shortened season is concerned, and how it impacts especially our veteran players?
I think early on it's going to hurt them, and I think it'll hurt them just because you've got old bones running up and down that court, and old bones take a little bit of time to kind of get into a flow, to get into a rhythm. And that's the one thing that with a shortened season they really don't have much of, which is time. But I think the upside is going to be that once the playoffs were to arrive, I think they're going to be in mid-season form. And at that point, I think the Celtics, if they can get the right pieces around their core guys now, I think they've got enough. They have enough talent to at least be in the conversation for, on the short list of teams that come out of the East. But again, there's so much that has to happen between now and the start of the season, not just with the NBA and just getting a deal done, but with the Celtics in particular. When you've got 7 guys on your roster, you know damn well half of your team has yet to be put together. And so when Doc Rivers finally, when they finally get their team together, you're trying to mesh these veteran players who have been doing things a certain way for so many years with 5, 6, 7 other guys who are trying to figure out how they fit in, how they fit in. And we saw last year with Jeff Green how difficult it was for him to kind of, mesh his game with these guys. And throughout the season he talked about how, it's just different, it's tough adjusting to the new role. And once the season ended, he talked more about how difficult it was and how he probably, was a little bit too deferring to the guys around him. And that's one of the downsides of having so many dominant, talented players like Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. There's a tendency for guys to defer to them as opposed to go at them and challenge them. And that's, I think, one of those slippery slopes that the Celtics, as they're putting this team together, they have to walk that fine line and figure out guys who can basically come in here and have the mental toughness to not just be good enough players to be out there on the floor, but challenge those guys that are already here.
Good stuff, Sherrod. We're live here on CLNS Radio, the Celtics Late Night Show. We're joined by Sherrod Blakely from Comcast New England. Sherrod, you mentioned initially the Celtics may have an issue, warming up, put it that way. And I don't know, as a fan that's watched really fast starts the last two seasons, I think in the long run maybe it'll benefit them to get maybe their stride at the end of the season for once. For those old legs, do you see that as being a possible benefit to a condensed season?
I do.
You talked about the negative of opening slowly.
Yeah, I do. And I think that's really why, and I've said this before, I think the shortened season is going to help them. I think it's going to help them where it matters most, and that's the playoffs. During the regular season, Doc is going to have to really, for the first time, I think, really go to some of those younger guys, some guys that aren't on with the team currently, to really help them kind of get through that regular season.
What younger guys? I was just going to say.
Well, exactly. Well, you know what? Well, think about it, though. When you've got guys in their mid to late 30s, everyone you sign is pretty much a younger guy. I mean, so you, and that's one of the things. They're definitely going to get younger. There's absolutely no doubt about it. The Celtics will be a younger team. 34, 35 years old, going to make them younger. The one thing, though, that the Celtics, I think they really, really have to do as they put together this team and they try to add 5, 6, 7 more pieces, I think they have to find that balance between adding young, up-and-coming talent with some veterans with some experience. I mean, if you go out and let's say you add a guy like like an Earl Clark, for example, who's an unrestricted free agent. If you add a young, up-and-coming guy like that, you need to balance that out with, a Grant Hill or a Kwame Brown, who I think if there's one guy I think that is going to want to be in the Celtics, I think it's going to be Kwame Brown. They need a center. They like him. He's functional. He's not going to cost a lot of money. Sign him up. But that's another story. I think I know. Look, as long as he's every time I say Kwame Brown's name, I get that no.
Yeah, but the last 3 seasons the last 3 seasons he's off seasons really too, especially last off season, and I've heard his name mentioned a couple times this off season. His name does get tossed around. It seems like every summer.
Well, last summer, I mean, he was very close to being a Celtic. I mean, they offered him, and he was interested, but in Houston, they had significant cap space, and they needed a center, and he was basically holding out for what he thought would be a better deal from Houston. And the offer from Houston never came, and so he wound up going to Charlotte for basically the same amount of money he would have got if he'd gone to Boston. And here's the irony of all that. Had he come to Boston, there would not have been a Shaquille O'Neal in Boston, because the Shaquille O'Neal stuff did not really start heating up until after Kwame had passed. So that's crazy to think that, you had to get turned down by Kwame Brown to get Shaquille O'Neal. In what world do you get turned down by Kwame Brown to get Shaquille O'Neal? Come on.
I don't know. I mean, if once you look at what Shaq actually... I mean, I'm not sure who I would have rather had.
I agree, BPaul. I mean...
Well, in hindsight, you'd want Kwame. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
In hindsight, you definitely would want Kwame. But if Shaquille O'Neal could have played at just 30, 35, 40% of Shaquille O'Neal, you would have taken him over Kwame. And he couldn't do that.
True. Well, sticking with the Celtics here, and not trying to get too far off topic, we have a few players. Avery Bradley's currently trying to negotiate a deal. We saw Nenad Kristic head overseas. I have to ask you, Sherrod, if you were in a fan's perspective, do you want to see these players continuing to play and going overseas, or would you rather just have them sit back here in the States training for when there is going to be a season, if there is a season?
As a fan, I probably would want them to keep their butts where they are because I'd be afraid that they're going to get hurt and not be able to help my team. As a fan, that's how I feel. But as someone who follows the NBA, what those guys are doing is exactly what you should do. Avery Bradley needs to play. I mean, it can be whether it's in Israel, Uzbekistan, South Boston, Roxbury. He needs to be on the court somewhere playing so he can get better. That's the one thing that, when you talk about these young guys who people consider busts and all that, a lot of times it's guys who haven't really had an opportunity to play. You look at a great example of that is Jermaine O'Neal. People remember when he was in Portland thought he was just a horrible player, an absolute wasted draft pick. And lo and behold, he gets traded to a team in Indiana, gets an opportunity to play. Next thing you know, this guy becomes a 6-time All-Star. I'm not saying Avery Bradley has that kind of I'm projecting him to be that kind of player, but I do believe that if Avery Bradley can get some significant playing time, you can get a better evaluation of how good or bad this guy is. I mean, his athleticism is impressive. I don't know about him in terms of his basketball skills. And again, that's one of those things that the more you see him play in basketball games with decent competition, you get a better sense of where he is as a basketball player. But Avery Bradley, he's a work in progress. It's just too soon to write that kid off, which is one of the reasons why, as teams have shown interest in him, Danny Ainge has been a little bit reluctant to give up on him just yet.
Sherrod, we just got an email into our mailbag wanting us to ask you, Deshaun Sims from the Red Claws, you have a shot to make the roster?
If they have a training camp and he's invited, yeah. I mean, coming from Michigan, I had a chance to see him play. He's from Michigan. He's a very, very good player. For whatever reason, he just didn't catch on. But I think he's one of those guys that you got to look at as a possibility for a couple reasons. One, because he's talented. 2, because he's available. And 3, if the CBA the collective bargaining agreement looks anything like the previous one, you're going to have to find young, cheap talent, and he falls right in that category. So he's definitely a guy that I think the Celtics will have some interest in. But here's the thing. They're not going to be alone. He really showed that he belongs in the NBA this past season in the D-League, and I do believe he's going to be on somebody's roster this season.
Well, sticking with the D-League here, Deshaun Sims, he was the Rookie of the Year last season in the NBA D-League. I have to ask, if there isn't a season or a shortened season, do you think the talent pool in the D-League will increase? Do you think some of the lower-end NBA players may choose to just stick it out in the NBA D-League for a few months rather than taking their families or taking themselves overseas?
No, because if they get an opportunity to go overseas and make a little bit of coin, they're going to make a little bit of coin. The D-League is a little less than a little bit of a coin. So there's not a whole lot of incentive talent in the D-League. I think is comparable to what they would be seeing in the upper echelon leagues overseas. So talent-wise, you get about the same if you go overseas and you make a little bit more money. I'm no math major, but a little more money is better than a little less money. So I think I'd go over to somewhere in some, Spain or Italy or Germany or somewhere and make a little bit more money and then come back to the States. Because this season, the way a lot of the players who are, making that trek, the way the seasons over there play out apparently will allow them, if the season is delayed, to come back to the States and join up with an NBA team. So there's a possibility where you can literally have your cake and eat it too, where you can make a little bit of money overseas and come back in time for an NBA season.
Okay, Hoops fans, you're listening to Sherrod Blakely from Comcast Sportsnet New England right here on CLNS Radio, the Celtics Late Night Show. Immediately following this interview with Sherrod, we're going to open the call lines to our listeners. The number is 347-215-7771. Sherrod, we're talking about shifting back to the Celtics away from the D-League. We're talking about the team, needing to get younger, inevitably getting younger because of the age of the core. Where does that leave Big Baby, Sherrod? Is Big Baby, a possible candidate likely, unlikely. The dust has settled. I think Big Baby has found Glenn. Will the Celtics find Glenn when they're eligible to sign free agents or re-sign?
Well, first and foremost, they still like Glenn Davis, despite how he struggled in the playoffs. He's still a guy that they have interest in. But with him, a lot's going to just depend on what the market values him at, because he's an unrestricted free agent, so he can sign with any team he wants to. And the one thing about Glenn Davis I can tell you is he wants to be an NBA starter. If there's a team that is willing to pay him decent money and will give him an opportunity to be a starter, I think that's the team that Glenn Davis is going to want to be a part of. Because unlike a lot of young players in the NBA, Glenn Davis has already won an NBA championship. He's already had big moments in the playoffs. He doesn't have to necessarily prove anything to anyone that he can step his game up in big moments. So for him at this point, it's a matter of finding a place where he can just basically be more of a main cog for a team's success. That's what he's looking for. And in Boston, clearly he was the first guy off the bench most nights. But I think from Glenn's perspective, he wants more than that. He doesn't want to just be a significant role player. He wants to be more of a starring role type player. Obviously, he's
Sherrod. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but taking this, a little personally, that's why Big Baby could go in my mind. Yeah, what's more important than winning a championship? I mean, I would take being a role player on a championship team over being a starter on the Cavs right now. And I know we know how you love Cleveland.
Oh, don't get me started on cadavers, Cleveland cadavers. I'm trying to leave them alone for a while. I think with Glenn, he wants to win. I think like everybody wants to win. But when you've had a taste of what a championship feels like, but you haven't had a taste of what it feels like to be the man on a team, I think that's what Glenn wants. Frankly, I don't think anyone is going to give him that opportunity, because I just don't think that's his role in the league. I think Glenn, he is an absolutely perfect 6th, 7th man on any championship caliber team. I think if you look for him to do more than that, if you look for him to be a 30, 35, 40-minute-a-night guy, he is going to play like crap. I love him playing in the high 20s, because to me, he's a guy that can give you make a major impact in 25, 30 minutes every night. And that's kind of the role he's had in Boston. And I suspect if he decides to leave Boston, that's ultimately the role he's going to have elsewhere. So really with Glenn, I think ultimately it's going to come down to money, because I think his role is going to be pretty steady no matter what team he plays for next season.
And I think the thing with Glenn Davis, the reason he can't play those extended minutes is probably because the shape he's in. I mean, let's face it, he's continued to work on his conditioning, but at the same time, I mean, Glenn Davis is always going to be Glenn Davis. He's a big guy. He's Big Baby. So I think that's the reason. I mean, you look at a guy like him and you throw 20 more minutes on him, he's going to become extremely tired down the stretch, and he's not going to be more effective.
Right, and the thing about Glenn Davis, he reminds me, their games are different, but in terms of being that impact guy, he reminds me of Corliss Williamson, a guy I had a chance to cover who was an undersized forward, kind of bulky, not big as Glenn, but had a very kind of bulky type build. And Corliss, 20, 25 minutes a night, he was a killer. You need him to go over 30, he sucked. And I think Glenn, over the course of a season, he can give you those 30-plus minutes every now and then when he has it rolling, but you can't bank on him being a 30-plus minute-a-night guy and expect to be a consistent winner or at least a title contender. That's not the role he needs to serve.
Sherrod, as always, thank you very much for joining us. We took 25 minutes of your time to talk hoops. You know what, though? I'm dying to talk hoops, and there's really not much to talk about.
25 quality minutes of hoop time.
Hey, man, and for that, we're getting you a one-way ticket to Cleveland, man. You could take a nice vacation there for 7 days.
Oh, man. Don't do it to me. Me and LeBron are in the same boat with that one. Say no to Cleveland.
Oh man. Sherrod, what are you working on right now at CSNNE? Where could our listeners find, what you're looking at or working on, et cetera?
Well, in lieu of the lockout, we've been doing a little bit of Patriots work, which has been pretty cool. So I've been out at Foxborough pretty regularly. I'll be out there pretty much every day this week. just talking to the guys and looking ahead to the big week, JETS Cats, and all that fun stuff. So you're just doing Patriot stuff, following the Celtics still, just hoping to get this lockout done with soon so we can get back to the thing that we love the most, which is, Boston Celtics and NBA basketball.
Sherrod Blakely, Comcast Sportsnet New England, CSNNE.com. Sherrod, where are you on Twitter?
Twitter, it is Sherrod, SHERROD, B as in boy, CSN. That is me.
Sherrod, thank you very much. Have a great night. We hope the next time you're back on this show, we're talking about hoops being played on a basketball court instead of negotiating in a boardroom somewhere. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your time, Sherrod. Everybody, you're listening to the Celtics Late Night Show live right here on CLNSRadio.com. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come right back, and open the call lines. The number's 347-215-7771.
This is CLNS Radio, the home of Internet Sports Talk Radio.
Hey, sports fans, Tim Donaghy here from the Sports Connection. I know the NBA better than anybody. That's why you need to call 1-800-308-9003 for today's free pick.
Thanks a lot, Timmy D. It's been a great year. Thanks to you. Guys, this is Danny D. Make sure you pick up that phone like Tim says. Give us a call for today's free pick at 1-800-308-9003 or visit us at DannyBasInBoy.info.
Mike Mackey here, host of Crunch Time with Mac Attack, the show giving you all the news and updates in the sports week, airing live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on CLNSRadio.com. For the next 5 weeks, Crunch Time with Mac Attack is partnering up with our friends at the popular website BustedTees.com to give away a free t-shirt code to one lucky caller each show for the next 5 weeks. BustedTees.com is one of the most well-known shirt designing companies on the web today. And even if you don't win the free shirt, everyone is a winner. Because when you head over to the Crunch Time with Mac Attack show page on CLNSRadio.com and you find the Busted Tees logo in the advertisement section, you will also find yourself a coupon code to be used on the site. So tune in to Crunch Time with Mac Attack, Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live on CLNSRadio.com for your chance to win a free shirt with free shipping and handling from BustedTees.com. You don't want to miss out on this one.
This is your boy Delonte West, and you're listening to CLNS Radio.
So, BPaul, who's your favorite to win the NBA title next season?
Come on, Jel. So is that a serious question? The big three coming back, Rondo's healthy. It's obviously going to be the Boston Celtics.
Wow, you really do wear green goggles, don't you?
Well, Nick, I may, but thanks to the expanded broadcast schedule here on CLNS Radio, I've been able to expand my horizons outside of the color green.
That is true, Brandon. Here at CLNS Radio, we don't just broadcast Boston Celtics talk. We have programs such as The Breakdown with Dave and Audley, Off the Court with Calvin Chamberlain and Luciana Celestine, Technically Speaking with former NBA official Tim Donaghy and Mike Munger, the Scotsman, NBA for Life, and the new Mike T.
Check out the broadcast schedule at www.clnsradio.com and listen in live for all your sport talk news.
With all this general NBA programming, this helps people like you see more than just the color green.
As my good friend Kermit once said,
it's not that easy being green, having to spend each day the color of the...
This is Austin Ames. You're listening to the Celtic Late Night Show on CLNS Radio.
Hey, this is Sam Romanella from K&M All-Star Sports. You listen to the Celtics Late Night Show.
All right, folks, we are back. Nick Gelso, joined as always by the guy on the other end of the mic. That's BPaul. Brandon, Sherrod Blakely, always a great interview.
Oh, it's terrific. I mean, I love talking to Sherrod. He knows his stuff. He's always entertaining. He throws in a little bit of humor in there. Just an excellent guest for our first show in over 2 months.
2 months. I still can't believe it, but the rust is showing it, Brandon. I have stuttered more in this show than I think I did in our entire 2 seasons. This is our 3rd season, believe it or not. So 3 seasons combined.
Yeah, I mean, I got a headache just thinking about it.
Well, I got a headache listening to you, period. I mean, that's just the way it works. Let's open the call line, 347-215-7771. The call lines are now open. We're waiting to get a call from Matt Rury. The Scotsman's going to call in, so we're going to check in with Celtics-Nation. But before we do, let's go to a caller from the 603 area code. What's up? You're live on the Celtics Late Night Show with BPaul and me, Nick. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
What's up?
I just wanted to touch on the Glenn Davis situation a little bit. I know you guys just went over it, but I don't know what to do with the guy either, truthfully. Past couple of years, we've all loved him, but after last season, it's a head-scratcher. I don't like him at the backup 4 spot. I really don't. At the backup 4 spot, he jacked up a ton of bad shots. And when he jacks up those shots, nobody rebounds. As a center, yeah, he rebounds, and that's all we really need him to do, but he's not happy doing it. And he just finds a way to step out of his role every single time. Having said that, you know what I mean? What do you do with the guy? Is he going to be a backup center? I think we can find a better option at the backup 4 spot. Do we do a sign and trade to try to get Tyrese Thomas or somebody like that? It's just we used to love him in the past, but I just don't know his role with this team right now.
I got to tell you, area code 603. What's your name, first of all?
Brent.
What is it?
Brent.
Brent. I thought you said Glenn. I was like,
no.
Glenn Davis? No.
No, Brent's been on before.
I mean, Brent's been on before. Brent, welcome back to the show.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. Man. Since day one, I never liked Big Baby, and Brandon could attest to that. I hate him at the 5, to be honest with you. And I hate him at the 4, too. It seems like he starts off every season really strong. Then he falls apart mid-season when he gets bored. Then you get a comeback, and then usually in the playoffs, we all forget everything that he did poorly in mid-season because he steps up. However, this past season was disgusting, Brandon.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Baby kind of played the way last season that the Red Sox did in September. And it's kind of like you said, when he gets bored, he gives us these uninspired performances, and then he steps it up and, he gets his name thrown into the 6th man of the year, talk, and it's a head-scratcher because you just don't know which Glenn Davis you're going to get. And I think more often than not, we're going to start to get the Glenn Davis that puts up bad shots and doesn't rebound. And that's, I'm just calling it like it is.
No, you know what, Brent, and you say it perfectly, too. His downfall, Big Baby's downfall this past season came about it was almost the minute he started getting talked about as a 6th man of the year. It was like 3 weeks later it all fell apart. He never pulled it back together. Sherrod brought up a great point. Glenn Davis, he's won a championship in his rookie year. Now it's all about, Sherrod didn't say this, I'm ad-libbing a little bit, but now it's all about Glenn. Well, I'll be honest with you, I need guys on this team that I love that are going to be all about one thing, and that's winning a championship. I'm not out for anybody, and I have no patience for anybody who is out for starting roles, get more minutes. That's not what the Boston Celtics have ever been about in their history, and in the years that they brought in some selfish players, look at the record. The late 70s was horrific. The down spiral in the early 2000s or in the mid-2000s. This team needs team players. That's how the championship was won in 2008, and that's how we'll continue to be elite and competitive. Brandon, do you have anything to add to this?
Well, let's face it here. If Glenn Davis does stay with the Boston Celtics, in a few years, if he can continue to improve, he does have a chance, I believe, of starting for the Boston Celtics. We're not going to see Kevin Garnett around for long. Unless you're going to spend money and bring someone proven in, he's right there. He could have a starting role on this team, and especially if this team takes a couple years of setback like they did in the 1990s. That was obviously a lot more years than we want. But there may be a few years we have to sit back with Big Baby at the 4, and he may be our starting 4.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I don't ever see Danny Ainge giving the green light to make Glenn Davis a starter at the 4 spot or even the 5 spot. I just don't see it. He's not starter. No, I can't see that happening. I really can't. And one last thing I want
Brent,
to
you know what?
Go
ahead.
Sorry. I feel much better about the third string than I do the second string right now. I think the biggest question mark on the Celtics going into the season is the backup. I feel really good about the rookies. I like the fact that they're bringing in, what's-his-face, Brown. I can't remember his first name. And I can't remember his name. Anyways,
Johnson.
I feel pretty good.
DeJuan Johnson.
No, not DeJuan Johnson and Etuan Moore. The other guy they couldn't sign, they were going to pick instead of Etuan Moore. Oh, God, what the hell is his name? They're going to sign him once this lockout ends. You guys know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, Brown. Yeah, I don't know his first name either. Yeah, Gilbert Brown, yes.
Yeah, okay. That kid looks good, and I think that third string is going to be a solid, that they're going to be a solid unit if and when they get the chance. Having said that, I think they potentially could prove a little more useful. I just don't know what that backup bench is going to look like right now, and I think that is our biggest question mark. And at face value, we know what we're going to get from the starters, and at face value, we know what we're going to get from the third string. I don't have any idea what that backup looks like, and they're going to be getting a lot of minutes this season, too. The starters are not going to be playing as much as they have in the past. That is the biggest question mark on this team right now, is that backup bench.
Brent, you couldn't have said it better, man. You're 100% correct. I agree with everything you're saying. And anybody who'll come on our radio show and bash Glenn Davis, Brandon, I think I'll let him at least come on and spend a long time as he wants to, because you know my feelings on Big Baby.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we know your feelings on Big Baby when he's not playing well, but we also know how you do like to turn the tables a little bit when he was in the running for sixth man. So we'll just keep it at that.
Oh, I get that too. That's a head scratcher. I think I started off my point with that. 1 minute he is a six-man candidate, and then the next he's a diva. It's too much of a question.
That's Brent. That's the hardest thing about Big Baby Davis is that he is so inconsistent, and just when you think we've gotten to a level where he is sixth man of the year or is capable of taking on a starting role with this team down the line, he then goofs it up. So, Brent, we want to thank you for your call in, and we hope that you'll tune in every Monday, man. We are back, whether the lockout continues or not. We're going to be here.
All right, appreciate it, guys. I'll keep tuning in.
Thanks, Brent. Hey, man, that was Brent from the 603 area code. BPaul, becoming a regular caller. Guy's got a good radio voice. Maybe we should give him a job here. Give him a show.
Yeah, Brent, call back in. If you want to join me, I'm gladly take a replacement for.
You know what? You're never ending, Brandon. Let's bring on the true voice of the network. That would be our friend, mine and yours.
I've never had that type of an intro before, Nick. That's pretty classy of you. I really appreciate that big drum roll.
I think it's fitting, Matt Rury. Because you got a pretty exciting announcement to make, and we're all kind of getting caught up on our summer of silence with the Celtics late. Really, I got to say it, Brandon. No Celtics coverage on the network at all because Celtics Stuff Live has taken a break also through the NBA lockout. So the off season has been quieted, at least quiet for Celtics fans, Celtics-Nation. Matt Rury, what have you been doing with your summer, man? Welcome back to the show.
Brandon, how's it going, buddy? I haven't talked to you in a long time. How are you?
I'm doing good, Matt. I like how you just shift away from Gelso. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, you know how we work around here. I like to give him a little jab now and then, too, so
I don't
he deserves
mind,
it.
Well, I do just have to let you know, Rury, here in the agenda, he has your band down as 12 Pearl, so that's how much he does pay attention to what you're writing.
Yeah, he really cares, doesn't he? Yeah,
he does.
Thanks for mentioning the band there, but to the people out there, it's actually 25 Pearl, 25 Pearl, so not even like half. Almost half, I guess, is what Nick is going for there.
You think you would have given Larry Bird props and made it like 33 Pearl? Or even honored Reggie Lewis. 35 Pearl would have worked. 17 Pearl for all the champions.
There's really not much I can do about that. Who wore 25? Any big names? You can't come up with any, can you?
No, I don't. I think that number's still available. Maybe you could take it.
You know what? I'll make up a Celtics jersey with 25 Pearl on the back of it, and that'll be it.
There you go, man.
It's done.
What do you got going on around October, I want to say 20th or 21st?
No, well, it's actually a week later than that. I hope you didn't get yourself mixed up because you're taking a trip up to Boston here, and it's October 28th. It's a Friday night, and we are
actually that works out. Wait, I did book the wrong date, Matt, but that does work out much better for my schedule, so you can still count me in as coming.
Excellent. Sounds good. So we'll be at the Hard Rock Cafe in Faneuil Hall, and this is our debut CD release. It's going to be just an EP. It's only 4 or 5 songs, and it is my recording debut. So we're all pretty proud of it. We've been working really hard. That's October 28th, and anybody that is affiliated with Bentley College will be playing there on October 20th as well. So check us out.
That's exciting stuff. Matt Rury, and tell us quickly a little bit about this. The recording process. I mean, was it a situation where you went in with the work recorded or already composed and you just went in and recorded it, or did you rehearse in the studio? How did this work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we've been playing together for a while, so we just sort of mess around and we rehearse once a week, and we've been playing shows. We try to get shows every month or so. We haven't had one in a couple months here because that darn hurricane canceled one of our shows, the one that ripped right up the East Coast, so we haven't played out live in a couple months, but we have been in the studio, and it actually only took me an hour and a half or maybe almost 2 hours to get all my stuff done. It was really quick. I expected to be in there for a long time, and it worked out really well. So we like the sound of it, and we're pretty excited for people to hear it. So it's really a really good thing, and that's why you haven't really seen a whole lot of me on the website, but I plan on getting back into that too.
Well, the last time you were on the website, Matt, you did write a very interesting article on season ticket holders. You're one yourself, so that was a great perspective that our listeners, you can check that out by going to CLNSRadio.com/author/Matt Rury, RURY, and check that article out. So maybe if you could just give a rundown on that article to maybe the people who haven't read that yet, as far as what the Boston Celtics are doing for season ticket holders with the NBA Lockout going on.
Yeah, sure. And I want to just preface this and sort of thank a couple of the readers who, one of them actually caught a math mistake that I made in my original posting of the article. So I will admit my mistakes here, even though it doesn't look like there are any at the moment because I did edit it. But I want to thank that guy, whoever you are, Wayne. Thank you. And there's another guy who actually he posted the same type of plans that the Dallas Mavericks are giving the season ticket holders there. So you can sort of compare and contrast what the Celtics are doing to the world champions. And basically, they give you 3 different options as a season ticket holder, and all of them are sort of in their best interest, of course, because they're not going to really hand too much away to us. But if you're planning on being a season ticket holder, as I plan to be for the rest of my life, they really are helping us out here. And basically, they're saying that if you renew for next year, then they'll give you 8% interest and a full refund on any games that are missed this year. So it's not a really significant number, but it's better than you can get in a normal bank account. So the Celtics they're really doing what they can, I think, to try and keep people around and keep people interested as far as that is concerned, in keeping tickets in people's names. So they got me. I'm here anyway, so I figure I might as well get that 8% and put it towards some tickets in the future.
I gotta stand corrected here too, Rory, because Scotty just mailed me or messaged me and told me something I'm humiliated that I didn't know. Number 25 was Casey Jones.
Oh, there you go. Scotty should get on the line here and rip you a new one for that. I'm surprised I didn't know that either.
The history guru. He does. Oh,
guru.
Stumped him.
Do you even know who Casey Jones is, BPaul?
Oh, that's.
You know he had a brother?
Yes, I do. Yes. I believe his name.
I'm kidding.
I believe his name was what was his name? Gelso, yeah, Gelso Jones.
Wait, Jones, wasn't he the leader of the Sunshine Band?
Oh, come on, man. Give Casey some props here.
No, Casey Jones was an excellent player, and he knew his role on the team, and he turned into a pretty decent coach in his lifetime too. So I have a lot of love for Casey Jones.
He's still doing a lot around the area too. You always see him doing different like legend type events around Boston, so he's still around the area as well.
Which to me is intriguing because his brother Sam, who some would argue, I believe, he did have a bigger impact on the team as a player. Sam Jones was a really good shooting guard, killer bank shot, but he never comes to Boston and is quite bitter at the fact, has been publicly stated that he's quite bitter at the fact that he's never been invited back. Interesting stuff. So Casey, great defensive player, turned into an amazing players coach. So he's still doing work around Boston. I'm not up in Boston, but that's good to hear. Anybody care to comment on that or no?
No, I mean,
no.
Sam Jones never became a coach. Is that correct? Sam Jones was not. He didn't coach anywhere really.
Coached.
So I mean,
no, he wasn't.
I didn't think so. I mean, so I don't know. Maybe it's that whole coaching fraternity type of thing that Sam doesn't get invited back. I don't know. If I were him, I probably wouldn't take it too much to heart and maybe try and seek out some answers or something, But if he's really that bitter.
We're in the middle of the lockout, so we could get off track here a little bit. One of the first articles I ever wrote for North Station Sports was actually in 08-09, and it was Sam Jones pretty much on television calling out the Celtics for never inviting him back to Boston. He was down in Orlando for the Eastern Conference semis against the Mad. We were playing against the Magic. He was there at the game, and called out the franchise for never inviting him back. I found it very strange.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's not very often that you hear any Celtics players really bashing the franchise or saying that they've done them wrong or anything like that. We've been the model for. I mean, no, not bashing them necessarily, but saying he obviously is bitter about something. He feels like he's been spited or something along those lines. So it's not, you don't hear that very often. The Celtics are a model franchise, unlike those punks out in La La Land.
We have to get a true legend on here, back in town here one of these days.
Who would be?
Is this what you've been doing with your summer? You've been working on these sound effects.
These annoying sound effects that when I'm trying to talk cut me off.
Can you please? Can you promise me that these crazy things are going to be gone after Halloween? This is a Halloween thing, isn't it?
Oh my God! It's really funny because I put them on so that every time BPaul talks, I could just clip in with one. Guys, let's talk hoops here. Matt Rury, you're going to complete the show with us. So the last, we're going to go until we get bored, but we're not going to go past 11 because that's my bedtime. So, Rury, let me start with you. Who do you blame for all this nonsense with the lockout, the owners or the players?
I mean, that's a tough question because everybody has to take some blame. And I kind of feel like the owners kind of got themselves in this mess in the first place because they signed a bad CBA years ago. So, but as the owners, you can't really foresee the future, I suppose, and you can't really blame them for that. It's not like they knew for sure that things were going to go sour. But I think they're taking too hard of a line right now, and they need to realize that their game and their fandom is at the top of the level that it can be, and it's never, or not never, but it hasn't been this high on the list of sports in a long time. People were putting basketball up there right after football, and I think it's sort of falling off, especially around here. The Celtics are not on anybody's mind right now, and they're a prominent franchise in the NBA. So I think that is probably speaking towards the rest of the league, and that's not on the players. That's on the owners. They're the ones that have control over whether these games are going to be played or not when it comes down to it. And I think they need to give in a little bit more because the players have made some concessions along the way, or at least that's what it sounds to me as though they've been doing. And the owners are still on this hard, fast line. So I think if you have to blame somebody, you point more in the owner's direction, but you can't put it all on them.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I'm on the same stance. Anyone who blames just one side, I don't think is looking into it enough, because I mean, yes, the players have negotiated from 57 to 53 as far as the revenue sharing goes, but at the same time, you also have the owners, which have pretty much backed off their stance on a hard salary cap, which is a pretty big step. So I mean, you got to look at both parties as being responsible. Until both parties negotiate more towards a center line, we're not going to get anywhere. And both sides ultimately are just hurting themselves when you think about it. Obviously, like Matt said, the owners, they're going to lose fans, which are going to decrease ticket sales, decrease merchandise sales, et cetera, et cetera. And players aren't going to be receiving their paychecks, which might be a wake-up call for them once that starts happening. So you got to look at both sides. Both sides are completely responsible, and right now both seem to be completely unwilling to work towards that center line.
Yeah, I mean, if I may just add something real quick, Nick, before as I cut you off here, look at the big markets, and as far as the NBA is concerned, and the Celtics are definitely one of them. Chicago's a big one. I would say Dallas right now, obviously huge. The Lakers. I would even say New York and Miami, obviously they're pretty big markets. Out of those teams, only two of them really don't have competition in their area. The Lakers don't really have competition because who cares about like the Raiders? Their baseball teams they're out of it. Then you look down in Miami, and they have absolutely no competition either because the Dolphins are just absolutely terrible, and their baseball team is out of it as well. They've been out of it since day one. So those two cities and franchises can probably stay afloat maybe more than the other ones can during this if it goes too long. But people in New England, obviously, Patriots, people are complaining about the Red Sox still, and then the Bruins are starting up again as Stanley Cup champions. And then if you look down in Dallas, they have the Cowboys that they're freaking out about, and the Texas Rangers are still in the playoffs, and things are going well there. The New York Yankees obviously are the headliner in New York, and they also have two football teams that people think can make a run for things here. So the NBA is not anywhere near the middle of the list for people right now across the nation, and it's going to take a lot to get it to be back to where it was.
I like how you went there, Matt. I was just going to actually go there as far as the other teams in each city's market. With the Celtics, I mean, we have three other teams that are competing with them and that can make people, I mean, forget about the NBA. You have the Red Sox, who are usually always competitive despite choking away a almost locked playoff spot. You have the Bruins, Stanley Cup champions, and then the Patriots, who are on a great run themselves. With that, I guess you can say dynasty. So it's easy to forget about the Celtics, whereas in some other markets, let's say Oklahoma City, they may have like Oklahoma football, college football, that would maybe help them forget about that. But I think when basketball returns to a city like that, they'll be fine. But Boston, I mean, in cities like that, you have to wonder what type of impact that's going to have.
Yeah, Nick, you want to jump in? I'm sorry I cut you off before, but I figured I'd let you go here now.
I'm giving you a moment of silence.
That's nice of you, Matt.
Wow, a moment of silence. Okay, well then maybe I should just take it then.
It's over. It's over. You know, we're here. We're with Matt Rury. You're listening to the Celtics Late Night Show live right here on CLNS Radio. BPaul, me, Nick Gelso, and the voice of pre- and post-game here on CLNS Radio, Rury, if we ever have it again, Matt Rury. And I want to bring to attention to the listeners, on the front page and on the blog page on CLNS Radio, there is this very same question that we pitched to Rury just now. Who do you blame for the NBA lockout? And, Matt, you may be happy to know that answer number 4 has gotten one vote thus far, and it's Lucky the Leprechaun.
Lucky the Leprechaun, that poor kid.
You vote for Lucky?
He takes a lot of I didn't vote for Lucky. If Aztec Gino was up there, I would have voted for him, I'll tell you that much.
Easy on Aztec.
No. But no, that poor kid Lucky, he just gets a bad rap, and I think he's really trying hard, but he's not I guess he's just not as good as the older guy, the other guy used to be, but he had his own problems too, so I don't want to divulge or dive into that too much.
Anyway, the call-in number is 347-215-7771. Celtics Nation, if you're alive, if you're out there, you're thinking about hoops, we know you're not watching them right now, so give us a ring. Get on the line with Matt Rury, BPaul, and Nick Gelso. That's me. Brandon, today, I believe it was today, Adam Silver, who would be always on the right-hand side of David Stern and kind of looks like Lurch. But anyway, the Deputy Commissioner, Adam Silver, he singled out Paul Pierce today as someone who over the weekend said very meaningful things, regarding the lockout. Pierce right now, he's taking part in these small work session groups that the NBA Players Association and the owners are putting on. What do you feel Paul's stance is on all this? I mean, he's made pretty public statements about it, and do you look at him as being admirable for coming out in favor of the players, obviously, even though it really has not much bearing on him? He's in the last contract of his career, Brandon. What are your thoughts on the truth?
Well, I mean, it's good to see Pierce is obviously becoming. He's a veteran in the league. He's a guy that a lot of people look up to, a lot of the younger players, and so he's sticking up for those. And I mean, you say it is his last contract of his career. We don't know that for certain. I mean, likely. But at the same time, with a lot of these negotiations, some of the things they're negotiating could, in fact, have an impact on what happens with his paycheck. I was reading into it today, and even current contracts could be cut from 15 to 20% if the league does and the owners do get what they want. So, I mean, he does have a dog in the fight here. He is battling for his own contract, but at the same time, he's battling for the good of the game, the future of the sport, because most likely this collective bargaining agreement is going to be a long-term deal that's going to affect players of the future. So Paul Pierce, Derek Fisher, the rest of those guys, they want to do what's right and provide a good future for the players that work hard throughout their high school and college careers to get to that level.
Matt Rury, we look at, Dr. J, definitely Michael Jordan now. These guys, Magic, they're ambassadors of the NBA. Are we watching Paul Pierce kind of transform into, now that he's in the latter part of his career, being an ambassador of the game? I mean, what are your thoughts, you think?
Listen, people across the league they bash Paul Pierce. They hate on him. He has a lot of haters. He kind of flies under the radar in that regard because he's not a LeBron James. He's not a Kobe Bryant. He's not one of these flashy players that is this enormous name and everybody has their attention focused on him. But I think true NBA fans across the league, for some reason, don't like this guy, and I'll never understand it, because maybe he had a tendency to get a little wild when he was a younger kid, and we all know the incident that happened at the bar with him getting stabbed and all that. But he has matured so much, tenfold, 20-fold, whatever you want to call it, over the course of his career. And one of the first instances I realized of this is when it obviously clicked to him that being a Celtic was something sacred, something important, and he decided to stick it out and not take off or not demand a trade through the bad years. And I think those years hardened him, and they made him the leader that he is today. And he's definitely becoming a role model for all the younger players around him. I think the fact that he got to play a few years now with Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett is a big part of it, because Ray Allen obviously is one of the most down-to-earth, smartest, and friendly, and the list goes on. One of the best players in the league as far as leadership goes too. People look up to Ray Allen. So Paul Pierce saw a guy like that every day, and I think that helped him as well. He's definitely matured much more than anybody really gave him credit for, and I wouldn't be surprised if he continued on this path and sort of stepped up to be this next great leader or whatever you want to call it for the Celtics, especially for the next few years.
Well, let me jump in here. It was something a little bit off topic, but at the same time, we're talking about Paul Pierce and him representing the NBA Players Association at the negotiations. And I'm not sure if you guys caught on to this, but there was a little confrontation between Dwayne Wade and David Stern in one of the meetings here recently, where David Stern was starting to get on one of his little rants, getting a little frustrated, and pointing a finger at Dwayne Wade. And Wade reports say that Wade kind of snapped back, telling him that no one points a finger at him, and you know how that goes. And so I just have to ask you, Matt.
What happened? Repeat that. Repeat that.
You're really going to make me repeat all that?
Not all of it. Just what happened with finger pointing. I was not paying attention, to be honest with you. Whenever you talk, I tune out.
Oh, okay.
What was it?
Well, they were in the negotiations. Dwayne Wade, they were in a meeting room, and I guess David Stern was lashing out at Dwayne Wade, and he was kind of pointing his finger like kindergarten teachers do to their 5-year-old students. And Dwayne Wade snapped back, telling him that nobody points a finger at him, and so on and so forth. That's what the rumors are indicating.
Well,
and
maybe that'll get us a couple calls this year.
Well, yeah, that's exactly where I was going, because as we know, Tim Donaghy is on the network. We'd like to hear his thoughts on that, but I mean, you have to wonder if the NBA season does start, is David Stern going to have an agenda? Because it's pretty obvious that they don't have the best relationship after what went on there. So you have to wonder if Dwayne Wade may be on the bad end of some calls this coming season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not been quietly talked about. You know, Stan Van Gundy came out and said something about it and was quickly reprimanded behind closed doors. We don't really know if he was fined or anything like that for those comments, but people have been talking about this for a few years now, about how David Stern has sort of become this dictator who is sitting on his throne and sort of looking down at his peasants or whatever he feels these people are, and telling them what to do and pulling the strings on everything. And it's being compared to professional wrestling in some corners, and it's just getting to the point where you do have to wonder if he has a hidden agenda, and if he's trying to drive certain players up a wall or drive certain teams into profitability or other teams and not getting calls like the Orlando Magic. I mean, they were up and coming when the Celtics had those tough injuries, and the Magic got to the finals. They were an up and coming team. People thought that they were going to be the next big thing out of the East, and we haven't heard anything from them since. And I think that Stan Van Gundy's running with David Stern might have a little bit to do with that, but at the same time, how much can this man really control? Is he really running this whole NBA world and fooling everybody? There's millions of people that are tuned into this. People are getting a lot of detail here. People follow this stuff religiously. I mean, obviously, we're some of those people. We're talking about this, and there's not even any games being played. So I have a hard time believing that he's fooling all of us, but it's definitely possible.
Good segue. Talking about David Stern, talking about, Dwayne Wade, and maybe now Stern hopefully has a bit of an agenda against Wade. Let's listen to an excerpt real quick, 30-second excerpt from Donaghy and Scotty's show, where they're talking about the exact same thing. Then we're going to intro the Scotsman. Again, the call lines are open, 347-215-7771. Get on the air with us here on the Celtics Late Night Show, CLNS Radio, where you can voice your opinions on hoops. Get it out of your system. Here's the clip.
But you're missing the point here.
Help me. I want to learn.
Michael Vick coming out and essentially crying about calls that weren't made. When you have a guy in your grasp, you're allowed to finish it.
He ran into his own man. But I'm telling you that I've seen this on the floor in NBA games, to where Michael Jordan goes to the basket.
Did I upload the same clip?
But you're missing the point here.
Help me. I want to learn.
Michael Vick coming out and essentially crying about calls that weren't made. For what? Watching that game, there wasn't one single questionable call for that crybaby to bitch about.
If an official is confronted with doubt, he should err on the side throwing the flag. Now, I've seen a lot when I've refereed Michael Jordan. I've seen Michael Jordan go to the hole, think he was fouled, look over at the referee, and get a whistle. And it's no doubt in my mind, Michael Vick is not getting the flag that Tom Brady or Peyton Manning would.
All right, let's welcome the Scotsman on the show. That's a great soundbite from last Wednesday's show where Scotty bashed the ref, and the ref definitely didn't stand down. I love hearing Tim tell stories about, when he refereed guys like Michael Jordan. The Scotsman's now live. Scotty, do you think you won that battle?
Absolutely. I mean, look, and here's the thing. Arguing with Tim, and I saw the review we got. We weren't arguing because, we have some kind of serious dislike for each other. We were arguing because we both felt passionate about what we were talking about. And as far as the basketball aspect of his argument, I wasn't going to debate it. I wasn't going to sit there and say that Jordan didn't look at the ref and get the call. But at the same time, when it comes to football, and I think he was so adamant about it because it was Michael Vick and he's an Eagles fan, the facts prove and back my argument.
You think Donaghy was sticking up for Vick because he's an Eagles fan and not necessarily because of the substance of the argument?
I think that if Michael Vick was on the 49ers, Tim wouldn't have said anything about it. But that's just part of my opinion. But
let me jump in here and ask you, Scotty. I mean, I know you have a little bit of hatred towards Vick. So do you think? I mean, is that what influenced your side of the debate as well?
Look, there's no secret that I don't like Michael Vick, but I mean, I don't like the fact that any quarterback gets preferential treatment. I mean, the way the league has changed over the last 10, 20 years, quarterbacks are already the most protected players on a football team outside of the kicker and the punter. But those guys don't really count because they're only on the field about 10 times a game total. So as far as all the position players that play a decent amount of snaps, the quarterbacks are already protected too much. The rules are set up specifically to protect the quarterbacks so that they stay on the field, so that you see more offense, because people think that offense is what generates, the fans watching and buying all the products. And look, I get it. The NFL wants to make money. They want to have their stars on the field. But at the same time, for a guy like Michael Vick, whose statistics have shown has earned more 15-yard penalty flags in his favor than the other elite quarterbacks combined, he doesn't have an argument. And he didn't say, this game specifically, I didn't like such and such play. His statement was a blanket statement saying, I'm not getting the calls that other quarterbacks are. And Tim wasn't listening to that. He wasn't comprehending what I was trying to say, because the facts are he's getting more calls than the other elite quarterbacks in the NFL. So he was 100% wrong in what he was trying to argue with me about. I wasn't debating his knowledge of the NBA and how those officials call, because we all see how bad NBA officials are. We all see it every single year. If you watch a Miami game or whatever team LeBron plays for, or the Lakers games, you see how bad officials can be.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I'm still here. I just stopped talking.
Oh, there he is.
Wow, Jelso, you really are rusty, aren't you, big guy?
You know what? It's very difficult because, and Brandon and I are Skyping back and forth. BTR and Skype is not hooked up well tonight, so I'm catching every third or fourth word from Scotty, and it's hard now, Matt Rury, because I produce Wednesday shows with them, so Scotty knows when I mute people. So he probably thinks I muted him. Scotty, I didn't mute you.
No. Believe me, I know. I made a point and I stopped talking. I didn't ramble on like I used to.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Apparently, I was the one that was supposed to pick up the slack there because Jelso wasn't paying attention and BPaul doesn't care, I guess. So.
I'm playing
obviously,
friends,
I think Scotty's exactly right here. If we're going to look at NBA officiating, I mean, Tim Donaghy is one of the top guys that we're going to ask his opinion on. But I don't know. I'm not buying this whole Vick's not getting the calls thing because it seems pointless to me. Why would it doesn't? It just I don't know. NFL refs have it hard enough as it is instead of having a hidden agenda. I just don't see the issue here. I think Vick is just whining because his team stinks.
Absolutely. If you look at it, Michael Vick is mad because they were the dream team. Everybody had all the. They're like. I'm trying to think who I could compare them to with regards to the NBA. They're like the Phoenix Suns. They want to make all the flashy plays. They want to outscore you. But if you put them up against a team with guys that want to play physical, then they back down like the little weenies that they are. They got a lot of big names. I mean, they signed a Nnamdi Asomugha big contract, Colin Jenkins. They still have Asante Samuel. They got Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie in that Kevin Cobb trade. They thought they were being sneaky signing Steve Smith away from the Giants. So they've got a lot of big names and big name talent on their roster, but they don't have a lot of big talent players. They don't even have a lot of guys that you would call the lunch pail guys on that team. So right now, Philadelphia is pissed because they hyped themselves up at the beginning of the year. Vince Young made a stupid dream team comment, and everybody wanted to compare these guys to the Miami Heat. People were talking about this team as a Super Bowl contender before the season even started. It's like listening to ESPN talk about the friggin' Dallas Cowboys every year. That team could go 1-15 5 years in a row with the same guys all 5 years, and for some reason the next year, this is going to be a year that Romo doesn't piss his pants in the fourth quarter. This guy's legit. It gets disgusting after a while, and Philadelphia is just they're an awful football team right now. They don't have any heart. They don't have any big time guys that can come up and smack you in the mouth, and that's why they're getting smacked in the mouth right now by the teams that are playing them. They're lucky to even win a game because if it wasn't for Steven Jackson hurting himself in week 1, the Rams beat the crap out of them.
There you go, Jelko. Right, there it is. There's a big rant from Scotty. Now take it away.
While we're doing that, Scotty, let's shift back to the NBA now. And Brandon, brought a couple really good quotes to my attention that are going around Twitter, and it's basically about Ron Artest's nonsense. He's now challenging NBA players. Basically what he said is, I will challenge anyone heavyweight over 240 to a boxing fight, not UFC, boxing in the ring. He gives his email address, Brandon. If that's his correct email address, you should write that down. And get your face KO'd. And then he says, I would fight Kimbo Slice only in a boxing ring, not UFC, and not in street fighting. He beast. He beast. In the ring, I'm beast.
And this, keep in mind, guys, this is coming from a guy named Meta World Peace.
World Peace. Think about that. Now, come on. Scotty, we got to get your thoughts on that.
Look, this guy's an idiot. I mean, you watch him when he plays the game. He acts like a tough guy, and he has this tough guy reputation because he beat up a fan in Detroit. Because he likes to take cheap shots and make dirty plays in the games that he plays in. But if you ever watch when somebody actually gets in his face, he completely backs down like a chump. That's why he didn't want to fight Ben Wallace. That's why he's never really done anything serious when Paul Pierce and him are going at it, because he knows he's going to get his ass kicked. He's one of those fake bravado thugs out there, and people, they think because he has that crazy reputation, he's a guy you don't want to mess with. He would get dropped. You could put a guy in there. You could put like a cruiserweight or a welterweight or one lightweight, bantamweight. You could put any of those guys in a ring with Ron Artest, and he's going to get the crap kicked out of him. You put him in there against Muhammad Ali's daughter, he's going to get the shit kicked out of him, as far as I'm concerned.
The thing that
your thoughts.
I'm sorry. Well, let's catch Matt Rury up here. Rury's now joined us via Skype. Matt, we're talking about Meta World Peace, a guy with the last name Peace. I'm not sure if you caught on to what he tweeted today, but he was tweeting, first one was, I will challenge anyone heavyweight over 240 to a boxing fight, not UFC, boxing in the ring. He then goes on to give his email address and says, come get your face KO.
Did you write that down, BPaul?
What's that?
Did you get that email address? Did you write that down?
I have the email address, Jelso. Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
So, Matt, I just have to get your opinion on that as far as, a guy with the last name Meta World Peace, and I swear every single one of these sound effects are awesome.
All right, Jelso. All right, and they're off. Somebody mute him.
Somebody's bored. Go ahead.
Well, I guess what I would say is that Lennox Lewis.
Okay, you're done. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Lennox Lewis was one of the most succinct people on interviews that you've ever seen, but he was deadly in the ring. He was a very peaceful man outside of the ring, as far as I could tell from interviews and seeing him on TV and stuff like that. So I think that Ron Artest is okay here because he's fighting in a controlled place. So it's not contradicting the peace aspect. He gets a thumbs up from me, and I will not be ending that boxing match.
Well, wait a minute. So you're giving a Laker a thumbs up on this show?
You know what? Ron Artest, to me, is not really a Laker. He's more of a psychotic human being in general. So we just say okay to those people, and we move along.
Scotty, get back in here.
Hey, look, as far as, I don't even want to waste as much time on this friggin' clown as I have to. I was going to bring something up, and I don't know if you guys have seen it yet. It's I believe it just came out today. Rick Bucher wrote an article on ESPN. I guess there was a letter that was sent to the players by 6 big-time agents, basically telling them, don't let the owner sucker you into a bad deal, because that's exactly what they're looking for here. And I mean, it goes on to state facts about if the NBA is losing money the way they say they are, then why would you have so many ownership groups lining up to buy teams? I mean, you look at the amount of profits teams like New York and Los Angeles are making. If they revenue shared with those 2 teams alone, you could probably support the rest of the franchises. I mean, this whole $300 million in losses thing is complete garbage as far as I'm concerned. And, I mean, you look at it, the owners aren't trying to negotiate a deal. They're trying to dictate a deal. And that's coming from the article itself. I mean, then you look at, Osama bin Stern over here. If you're the commissioner of a fledgling league, why do you still have your job getting paid the ridiculous salary that you're getting paid? He should have been gone a long time ago. And I think it might have been Matt, or maybe it was one of your callers that brought up the point. They say they've been losing money since 2005 when the last CBA was signed. They were over the moon about that collective bargaining agreement. When they signed it, I mean, the players had conceded, the owners got what they wanted. They were celebrating. Same thing happened in '98. We got what we wanted. And now they're complaining about it, and they're pissed off because it didn't work out in their favor. How much of a friggin' moron do you have to be to knowingly sign a deal that's going to, take money out of your pocket? I'm just not buying this whole thing about the owners. I think it's, I mean, the players are making a lot of money, but at the same time, why should they have to give back money that's promised to them because the owners don't know how to run a business? You look at it, and I mentioned this to Tim, you look at I think it's the Forbes 400, the top 400 wealthiest people in the world. I think 12 owners are on that list, of people that are worth more than $1 billion or some insane amount of money like that. So these guys are completely full of crap. I mean, they really are.
Scotty, the interesting thing, and what I pulled out of Donaghy in your argument, which was a great argument, was Tim was taking the ownership stance as far as a business needing to be profitable or having the right to be profitable. And I can't say I disagree with him there. I don't think the Forbes 400 list is relevant if their businesses are not profiting. And I think in the economic environment we're in right now, 10, 15 years ago, the owners were multi-billionaires who needed to declare a loss somewhere on their tax claim. So, I mean, it is a different era. One thing I did take away from your argument, which I thought was really pretty insightful, and that was the fact that you said that they signed a collective bargaining agreement. They had to do projections, and seeing that, how many years later they're not turning a profit, that was kind of stupidity on their end too. So I kind of agree with both of you.
Well, I mean, you look at it, and again, I think it was right at the beginning of the summer, either right before the lockout or just after it, we saw 4 teams come up with new ownership groups. I think Atlanta was one of them, and I forget the other 3. But these guys, either they have to be the dumbest businessmen in the world to buy, basically purchase a business that isn't going to make them any money, or somebody's lying about how much the NBA is in fact losing money. And, personally, I think it's the latter, because there's no way the NBA can try and convince anybody that they're coming off one of their highest rated years in a long time, and yet somehow they're still losing money. So I think what needs to be done. The players have been willing to concede on the 57% BRI. They've come down to 54%, I believe. I think they even said they'd be willing to come down to a 52-48 split. Now, when you look at what they offered initially, 54.3%, that would have given back approximately $100 million over each year, for 5 years over the length of the CBA. Well, if they give back more, say they drop down to 52%, you're probably looking at somewhere close to $150 million a year. If they go further and go down to 50% and do a 50-50 split, then you're looking at the players willing to give back approximately $175 million a year. So the players are, in fact, negotiating, but the owners are not. They want the players to essentially pay off the whole debt without them taking any responsibility for their own actions, and I think that's complete bullshit. It really is. The players shouldn't have to make up for how bad the owners are at what they do. I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and again, I understand the players make millions of dollars, and you have guys that suck, that earn big contracts that don't do anything with themselves afterwards. You want to tweak that a little bit so that there's not as much guaranteed money being thrown out there. Fine, I don't have any problems with that, but don't make the players give back money. Let
me just jump in here, Scotty. You're mentioning here as far as you're being on the owner's side, but at the same time, you have to look at it. And Sherrod Blakely, I think, made a good point in regards to the NBA Players Association taking 57% of the revenue. And like he said, in what other league do you see that happening? I mean, yes, it may have been the owner's mistake initially to agree to that in the previous CBA, but looking at the future and for the better good of everyone all around, I mean, what's it really? What type of difference is it going to make for the players to make, say, $9 million instead of $10 million, or something of that sort? And then we can just play basketball again. I mean, yes, like you said, it was a bad deal that they made, but at the same time, I mean, we have to look at reality. 57% to 43%. You don't see that in any other league out there.
Again, I mean, I agree. These guys, make an obscene amount of money. But, with them being willing to concede and drop down as far as 52% or even 50-50 split, that right there alone should end the lockout. And then they could, iron out all the rest of the details. But here's the problem. These owners, they keep sticking to this ridiculous hard cap that they're talking about. If with a soft cap where you essentially could go over the salary cap, pay a luxury tax, and outspend everybody, if teams on the lower end of the salary cap that weren't even spending $53 million, aren't competitive, what makes you think they're going to be competitive? You up the salary cap to $62 million hard cap, they're still not going to be able to spend more than $45 million. That's not going to change anything. The lesser thans aren't going to be able to spend more money just because you put a hard cap and you even things out. I think it makes absolutely no sense. You're still not going to get players that are going to want to go to these teams because they're just not desirable destinations. It has nothing to do with money. There are just some places that people don't want to go play. I mean, sometimes you get lucky. You have a guy like Reggie Miller who stays in Indiana his whole career. You have guys that get drafted to Sacramento or New Orleans that stay there for the duration of their career. But for the most part, people aren't going to want to go there no matter what the salary cap situation is. So I think the owner's stance on the hard cap, I think that, they're just trying to bully their way and say, well, guess what? We're billionaires. We can last longer than you. And what that tells me right there is they don't give two shits about the fans. I mean, look at what the players are doing right now on their own time. They're staging all these games, these exhibition games, the highlight games, and fans are allowed to come see them. They want to play basketball. I haven't heard anything out of the players' mouth, contrary to that fact that they want to get back on the court and play basketball. The owners, on the other hand, they're too busy arguing amongst themselves. I mean, you guys like Sarver and Sterling and Dan Gilbert, they're basically holding everything back here.
Well, I just don't see why these guys just can't come to, say, a 50-50 or, like you said, a 51-49, something like that. And I'm not even strongly opposed to a hard cap as long as it has exceptions such as the mid-level exception, bird rights, things like that. I'm not opposed to a hard cap. So I mean, you'd think it wouldn't be this difficult to negotiate, even if both sides just gave a little bit, just an inch, but neither one is budging at all, and that's totally what is holding this whole scenario back.
All right, Scotty. Listen, I'm sorry that we couldn't be more interactive with you. You're now a host on this network. You know, at times BTR, the program that we use to launch the virtual studio here, sometimes does not want to cooperate. And tonight we're getting garbled responses. Luckily, I heard your argument before, and it's a very well put together argument, whether people agree with it or not. It's well said, Scotty. We'll tune in on Wednesday night, 8 p.m., Scotsman. We're looking forward to hearing you and Tim Donaghy again. I'm going to be joining you guys. Should be a fun show.
Yeah, thanks for doing this show. It's good to talk basketball again. But, yeah, everybody out there, Tim Donaghy, former NBA ref and author of Personal Foul, and myself, star of the Return to the Rafters documentary, Mike Munger. We're on, technically speaking, Wednesday nights on CLNS Radio. I also have a new show called Bring in the House on Sunday mornings with CLNS newcomer Alex Whitehead, and it's all football all the time. And believe me, that's a show that you want to catch, because him and I, with him being a Patriots fan and me being a Giants fan, it's easy to dig at each other and go back and forth there. So, check out our shows. You can follow me on Twitter at SexyScottish34. I'm on Facebook. Hit me up. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to, not talk to somebody, especially when they want to talk sports. It's what I'm about. So, thanks for the time, guys, and, I'm sure I'll talk to you guys again.
Scotty, always good stuff. And I got to tell you, I listened to Bringing the House today. Great show, great job hosting, man. Thrilled to have you as a formal part of the network. You've been contributing to this show, the Celtics Late Night Show, since 2009 with the Scottish Torture Chamber. We planned on bringing that back this evening, but time just didn't allow it to happen. So, folks out there in Celtics-Nation, stay tuned to the Celtics Late Night Show, this program, for the return of the Scottish Torture Chamber in the near future. Scotty, thank you so much for calling in. Guys, we're nearing the end of the road here. Any final thoughts, Matt Rury?
I don't know. I think from what I heard from Scotty, he was making a pretty good argument there, and I like his point about the players putting on a show and having these venues that the fans can go and see them play. They've been doing it all around the country, New York and Washington and out in LA. So that's definitely a great point, but I still don't see how that gets them off scot-free. They definitely need to make maybe a few more concessions and maybe not stand as hard against it, because there are players that say that they don't care if the season's played. Kevin Garnett came out multiple times and said he doesn't care if they play basketball this year, that he's not going to give in. So there are definitely players out there that have that mentality. So, and it's the same thing on the owner side. I'm sure there are plenty of owners that would like the doors to be open and those seats to be filled. It's just the few that are kind of holding things up on both sides that is kind of spoiling it for everybody else out there. So I hope that they can get this resolved pretty soon. I hope that next week and we have a little bit more information about maybe when things are going to get rolling here. I don't think it's going to be next week, but as soon as possible, I want to see those lights turn on in the Garden, and I don't want ice to be on the floor there. I want to see some parquet.
Well, here's the thing, Matt. I mean, we were talking about the exhibition games in leagues like that. I just wanted to touch on that real quick. And it just isn't the same as NBA basketball, as like you said, seeing a game on the parquet floor. I mean, yeah, you can watch some live feed. Like you can probably see half of what's going on via Ustream or something like that, where Kevin Durant scoring 70 points or LeBron James and Kevin Durant are having dunk shows. But it's just not the same. I mean, yes, you have the stars, but then they throw in some crappy talent, some amateurs in there as well, and it's just not the same. So we need the NBA back, and David Stern and a bunch of the higher ups, Billy Hunter. Tomorrow and this coming week is huge. So hopefully maybe they'll listen to this show and they'll do what's good for the fans and do what's good for the sport and get an agreement.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey guys, that's a wrap. Episode 90 of the Celtics Late Night Show right here on CLNS Radio. Interesting too, Brandon, and what people may not realize, archives of every episode are right here on CLNS Radio. So if you feel like going back to the blast from the past, you could go back to the 2009-10 NBA Finals and listen to my big mouth and Brandon. And I'll tell you what, BPaul, there's some interesting stuff on there, especially, you know, we have promoted the hell out of Donaghy tonight, and unintentionally, but Tim would call in during the finals 2 seasons ago and give some great insights. So, you know, you could go back, listen. If you want your fix of Celtics, you can listen to us on demand right on CLNSRadio.com, and along with us, Celtic Stuff Live as well. Archived episodes are on demand there as well. So that's it, BPaul and Matt Rury. Episode 90 of the Celtics Late Night Show is a wrap. We'll be back next Monday at, well, stay tuned to the site for details as far as the time goes, but probably our 9 p.m. time slot. Possibly with Monday Night Football, BPaul, we may want to go a little earlier.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the same, if it's anything like the teams playing tonight, I mean, we don't have to worry. But is the Patriots and Jets Monday night next week?
Rory,
it must be. It must be. It must be because that's the game. No, I have no idea. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, if it is, we'll probably make a change to that scheduling just to not interfere because we know.
Jesus Christ. Honestly, that thing is going to drive me away from you, Gelso. It's the last thing I do. I will not put up with that ghost. What is that? That's got to be a Halloween noise. Come on, man.
That's like a woman singing or something. I don't know.
You don't have to worry. They're going to be gone after tonight.
No, don't do it. Honestly, I'm overdoing it tonight because we have nothing to talk about. But really, honestly,
there's nothing to talk about.
Gentlemen,
well, I mean,
the Patriots and Jets are on Sunday. Next Monday is Chicago and Detroit.
Okay, we're good. We can go next Monday.
Thank God for Matt Rury and the power of the World Wide Web. You know, he just Googled it.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I was on my fantasy football team, but that's okay.
All right. Listen, guys. 90 episodes, Brandon. Rory, you've been a part of a lot of them, too. So we're nearing that 100th episode. I mean, 10 weeks from now, if there's no NBA in 10 weeks, well, it's very likely that there may not be NBA in 10 weeks. But we will be here for the next 10 weeks, barring any major incident.
10 weeks? Are we going to throw a big party?
I think we may. If I can't be...
I think 12 Pearl's going to play at that party.
Casey Jones Pearl, 25 Pearl. All right, guys. You know what? Listen, the fact of the matter is that if I can't be here, Rory and BPaul will, and you know,
we'll be here to save the day.
Yep,
we always are.
So, and tune in to episode 91 next week. Radio. Stay tuned to CLNSRadio.com for show updates as far as who are working on that. I know he's got Ron Artest's email address. Guys, I'll tell you what, the urge to get back on the air hit me hard about 2 weeks ago. BPaul, I know you're in the same boat. So I can't tell you, it's an honor to share the mic with you guys as little as I actually share it because I'm too busy cutting you off. So we'll be back next week, everybody. Monday night, 9 p.m., CLNS Radio. That's a wrap.
Have you seen the well-to-do up and down Park Avenue on that famous thoroughfare with the noses in the air? An arrow collars, and lots of dollars, spending every dime for a wonderful time. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion fits? Putting on the ritz.